Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. I'm your host, GordoGambles, and guess what, baby? I'm back again. We are here talking about some NASCAR Cup Series DFS. We are previewing Darlington this week, and I'm back after a nice layoff. Moved to a new country. I'm sure Ryan's going to make fun of me because that's what Ryan does best. But guess what? We had ourselves a nice, fun weekend in the Daily Fan Racing Discord with some great NASCAR wins, a lot of wins. So maybe Ryan does some better things and just make fun of me. Maybe he wins money too. Maybe it's because it was the 1 week I was gone. Either way, I'm happy to be joined with these two guys again. I've missed talking races with them, and I'm excited to hear their thoughts on this upcoming race this weekend. I know Ryan's got a lot to say. So, Jason, we're going to start with you, my friend. How are we doing this week?
I'm doing good, man. Kansas was a fun race, right? I mean, it was as entertaining as we thought it was going to be. I think it lived up to all the hype we said. We said it was going to be a fun race, and it was just a blast to watch the entire race. I mean, it was like I said, it lived up to expectations as far as from a DFS standpoint. You guys knew I was strong on the Toyotas, which means I had some Hamlin, but I also had a lot of not Kyle Busch, a lot of Christopher Bell, a lot of Tyler Reddick, those types of plays that didn't work out. But we know DailyFanRacing had a pretty good week, so I don't want to bring down the level here. Talk about your wins over there, Ryan.
Let us have it, Ryan. Come on.
Yeah, so it was an okay week. We took down like every big contest except for the big contest, which kind of sucks. I had like 3 people messaging me like, I'm so sorry we didn't put it in the main contest there, because they would have gotten a split of, I think it ended up like being 11K, so it probably would have been a 10K split. But literally every other contest from the Chrome Horn to the Rainbow Warrior, we took it down, which is awesome. So when you have a Discord like that just blows up, and pretty much a large percentage of your people not only are just winning money, but are winning big money, winning 4-figure paydays, that's as good as it gets. So that was awesome. We pretty much nailed the slate. You don't ever, I mean, this is like the dream weekend. So you nail it to such a T that just everyone hits, and that's awesome. Kansas, I knew this, I said this a couple of weeks ago, right? When negative Ryan was popping out, when we went to Talladega, we're talking about Talladega. I was like, I hate this race. I hate that we're going to have to sit through this. I've hated the year so far, but we're going to get into the fun of the year. Dover was a really good race. It was fun. Kansas was awesome. That was not just the best race of the year so far. That was like one of the absolute best races of the last 10 years. Like it had everything. It was quintessential what we grew up on NASCAR, where you have great races, great battling, guys going out for the lead, fighting on pit road, and not like a fake kind of cheesy fighting. Like that was 2 guys that were legitimately, or one guy who was legitimately angry, and like it just, and a punch was actually thrown, which was key. Like it felt good. Chastain was on the Pat McAfee show today. Like these things never happen. It was a big deal, and that's all because of, one, Kansas is the best racetrack on the schedule, but it was just a great show. It was everything we hoped it was. So NASCAR keeps delivering right now in the summer months, or almost summer months, and we go to Darlington, which is going to be another phenomenal race, and one I'm super looking forward to. If you can't tell from all my throwback schemes up here, that's what I'm into. I love Darlington. I love the throwback weekend. That's my favorite weekend of the year.
Well, I'm excited to jump into that. So
Ross Chastain's the next star, obviously, making highlights and headlines every single week, man. We've been tooting his horn over here for a long time. So
he's my favorite driver. What are we talking about here?
Our favorite driver.
You know what, guys? It's a crazy weekend when, like I said, I'm busy. You guys have missed the finger countdown every week. I know Ryan was making fun of me, but I haven't done any of these shows, and I even missed the race last weekend. And I opened my phone Sunday afternoon to people sending me NASCAR clips, and it's like my group of university friends who don't really watch NASCAR that much, but they're sending me that stuff's going viral. They're enjoying the races. They bet on Bubba Wallace top 10. Like it was a very, very good week for people in the NASCAR scene. And you know what? I missed it. And I saw a lot of the clips look very fun, but that is in the past now. I am very proud of the success at DailyFanRacing. I even heard there was a couple Twitter things you were giving out hats, something else too last week.
Yeah. I was being a Twitter whore and trying to get some likes and retweets. We gave away some hats, and I got to mail them out now. And yes, Gordo, yours is coming as well.
Yes.
Now that you've got your American home, we're going to ship one to you as well. But yeah, we were just having fun with the weekend. We had the F1 race in Miami, so it was obviously a big weekend for F1 in America, a big weekend for us on the site. So I wanted to promote it as much as I can, have some fun, and we gave away some hats and enjoyed the dual races we had Sunday afternoon.
What was better race, Kansas or the F1 race?
Kansas.
Love it.
But here's the thing. I'll comment on that. Kansas was the better race. That's fantastic. If that F1 race was up against Martinsville from 3 weeks ago, F1 would have been better, right? So just because you had a good race and NASCAR fans had a good race matched up against F1, show your freaking horses. You had Talladega, that show sucked. Martinsville, that show sucked. Like, you have these races here in recent memory that were horrific compared to what should be expected from these tracks. Like, just calm your horses. F1's legit. They had 2 million people. They were getting 500,000 viewers literally 5 years ago. They got 2 million viewers for this race. They're growing, and it should be a concern, and it's obviously a concern.
How many viewers do they get when they're not in the States?
It depends on the race. Anywhere from 1 million to 1.5 million. Like, Monaco will get a bunch of viewers. And it'll depend on the time zone they're in and stuff, but 1 million to 1.5 million.
Yeah, we'll see. I still don't think it takes over NASCAR.
End of the decade.
You know what? It might sometime, because I hear a lot of love. We're not here to talk about that, though. No, I don't want to bring out negative NASCAR, Ryan again. We have positive Ryan for once, and we're getting rid of him. I don't want to scare him away. Let's talk about some Darlington. Before we do so, please hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. We do this each and every week, every Thursday night. Now we're going to bring in a slate right here to talk about Darlington. Quickly break down the racetrack for me and what we should expect this weekend. Ryan, we'll start with you.
So Darlington, it's been around since God knows how long. I don't know the exact year, 1950s, maybe even late 40s. It's egg-shaped, and if you actually look over the racetrack, it's literally in the shape of an egg. Turns 3 and 4 are a lot tighter to make it that egg shape, but it's literally the best racetrack on the NASCAR circuit because of the tire wear. In Darlington, even when they got repaved, it only took 2 or 3 years to really start wearing out tires again. It's because it's on, in South Carolina near the beach. Supposedly the sand blows in and tears up the asphalt quickly. I don't know the science behind it, but the high tire wear at Darlington is what makes it good. You literally have 3 seconds to fall off. So they may run a 31 flat, on qualifying. I don't even know where the hell they're qualifying at speed wise now. Haven't looked into it, but like, they're going to lose 3 seconds on the long run, and that creates comers or goers. They have to run up against the wall. Guys will get into the wall. That'll create issues. Coming off turn 2 is extremely treacherous. Guys get into it all the time there. We saw a huge wreck off turn 2 in the spring race last year. Just a lot of it seems like tracks that were built obviously in the 50s were made for different reasons. When they're made in the 90s, they were built symmetrically and they all made sense and they're laid out nicely and they didn't have any oddities to them. Well, Darlington, literally every inch of this track is just weird and odd shaped, and that's kind of that character makes it a fun race and it makes it hard for the drivers. And the best drivers get to the front here. Like they can, a good driver can overcome a slower car. Guys that are really good on long runs, taking care of the tires, do really, really well here. So I love the track. I just think it's a fun event. And then you have all the throwback schemes and all different things around it. Like, to me, especially 400 miles. 400 miles is great. It's going to be super short here. Because it's only 1.33 miles in length, or 1.36. But when they do it at 500 miles, that's just like the longest race of the year, and even rivals the Coke 600 in terms of length at 100 miles less. So 400 miles is great here. The race is great. I think the racing will be great. We'll see a lot of passing, a lot of fun stuff this weekend.
Sounds like fun to me. Jason, do you have a similar thought pattern on this one?
Yeah, I love Darlington. It's hard not to like a race at Darlington for obviously everything Ryan said there. Rim ride and slide jobs. It doesn't get much better than that on a Sunday afternoon, and that's what you get. That
sounds so kinky.
I know, right? It sounds like it should be a porn video, right? But yeah, super pumped about it this week, and you're going to see a lot of the same things that we saw, at Kansas that made Kansas such a good race last week. So yeah. Super pumped. It's always one of my favorite tracks. I've been to one Darlington race just way back when I was young. Awesome track to go to, at least back when I went. It was when Jeff Gordon won the Winston Million. So a little call out there that I got to see Jeff Gordon win the Winston Million at Darlington. So that was nice. That was sweet. And it was cool because Darlington set up where when the drivers leave, they're going home, right? So they were just driving across the track. So we waited there and got so many autographs. Saw Jeff Gordon and Burke. They were signing the dollar bills, throwing them out the window. got one of those. So it was pretty cool. It was a fun event. So love Darlington. Always going to hold a special place.
Yeah,
in my
if you can go to a race, if you're picking one race, I always tell everyone Darlington. Like if you can sit in turn 4 and like literally go to an Xfinity race right now, especially with the way those cars handle and they have more horsepower and stuff. But when you see them go through 3 and 4 up against that wall, like there's nothing cooler. Like it's literally the best atmosphere that I've been to. Yes, Bristol has a cool, way about it, but to me, Darlington, to be able to watch a cool race, a big enough track, but you can still see the whole thing, like it's the perfect racetrack. And go, if you're going to go to a race, go there for sure.
Especially back then, you could really see them on the edge. You can see, even as a kid, you could see like, oh my God, these guys are just balls out right now. So yeah.
I love it. But let's get some DraftKings specifics in here. Jason, let's bring up your fancy graphs and let's talk about some lineup construction this week.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about lineup construction here. The thing is, when you're looking at the Darlington, right, this 400-mile race, is we don't have a whole lot of data history recently of a 400-mile race. We've only had 3 of these since like 2004 in the last 3 years. So really, we only have that to pull from. And also, it's like, as Ryan says, kind of a unique size. So there's not a lot of tracks that have comparable as far as like race length. This 293 laps is it's not the same as those 400-mile and a half, slow. So it's a little longer. So I decided to pull just from those 3 Darlington races and see how scoring kind of lined up on that. And you can see here, scoring is all over the place here, which is as you expect. Comers and goers here at Darlington is not really a matter of where you start, it's how you finish. So you can see some good point performances all the way through the field here. But you do want to see is that the top 10 does make up 38% of the top 8 scores. So the front half makes up a significant portion as well. So if you're going to lean your lineups in a way, you're definitely going to lean them towards that front half of the field. Obviously, a big reason for focusing on those top 10 positions is going to be those dominator points, right? Dominator points are always going to play a pivotal role, every weekend we go to. But in these 3 400-mile races, we've seen 5 performances of over 30 plus dominator points, and we've seen another 8 performances of 10 to 20, right? So as these tires wear, you're going to get a lot of opportunity for guys who are good on long run to get those fast laps, score dominator points. I mean, that right there is a 3 race sample is 13 drivers who've scored over 10 dominator points. So a lot of availability there. And when you look at those guys who scored the 30 plus dominator points, all of those did start inside the top 6 and 5 of them started inside the top 4. So again, a significant portion of those top 5 top scorers are going to be those guys scoring those 30 plus dominator points. And just touching real quick on position differential, we know that Darlington, we've already mentioned, is a race of comers and goers. Tire wear matters. There is an ability for guys to make passes as those tires wear. So we get plenty of opportunity to target position differential in these races. There's been 18 performances in these 3 races of 10 plus position differential points, and 14 of those performances were good enough to land inside the top 10 in DraftKings scoring. So that's 5 per race of guys who scored over 10 position differential points who scored inside the top 10 of DraftKings scoring in just this 3 race sample. So.
All right. Well, let's stick with it. Let's talk about our drivers to watch this weekend. Again, we have to wait for our qualifying and stuff like that. Actually, quickly, though, before we do, Ryan, how does your lineup construction fit with that mold that Jason laid out there?
Yeah, so if you switch back to, actually, I have control of this too. I guess I can switch to the other side. So driver scoring 30 plus dominator points in 3 races. There's 5 of them. In my mind, that's pretty much 2 a race. Yes, there's 1 race that there's obviously 1, but it's 2 a race. That's a very similar situation to what we had last week, where we were looking at for 2 main dominators. Now, the main difference between here at Darlington and Kansas is the massive tire wear discrepancy. So, anyone who pits awkwardly under a green flag run can collect dominator points like that. They can just pick up fast laps because they're on fresh tires, right? That's the biggest thing that can kind of spruce up and add, some drivers to the 10 to 20 point dominator section. And then not only that, any driver who's really just good on a long run can start clicking off fast laps, running 8th or 9th or 10th. They don't necessarily have to be at the front. And you'll see that, Martin Truex is one of the best drivers at this on long green flag runs. Austin Dillon's been great here at Darlington relative to the rest of his, the racetracks, because he's great on a long run and he can start clicking off fast laps. So there's a lot of situations revolving around the tire wear and dominator points. But for me, it's still about 2 dominators, 2 midfield guys, and then 2 value tier guys. Pretty much an even build across your lineup, similar to what happened last week. That was the perfect formula for what we saw last week. I'm kind of expecting the same thing again this week, but there's still 293 laps. That 300 lap mark's when I really start thinking about 3 dominators. Obviously, we typically see that like New Hampshire, and that's a completely different beast, but 300 laps is a lot of laps led, and we could see that, an early leader, a mid-race leader, and then a late race dominator. So there are other ways to go. I think the more laps you get, the more variables you can kind of throw into that, or more variations to your pool. But I'm pretty much going to look at it based off of this graph and based off of what I expect is 2 main dominators, and then build from there.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on those mid-tier plays, you talked about those guys who are probably starting in that 11th through 20th range. Those types of plays there. When we're looking at that, there were 6 performances of guys who made it inside the top 8 in DraftKings scorings in these races, and 5 of those in that range were guys who started in that 15th to 20th range actually and finished inside the top 10. So that's a good area to target, is that 15 to 20 range. Guys who you think can target to finish inside the top 10 generally has scored very well here in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, well, let's ride that hot hand. Let's talk about some drivers to watch. Ryan, we're going to go right to you. We're going to get things started. I know. This is a big privilege. I'm feeling nice today. I should probably take this back before I get ripped on by you. But talk to me about your top tier driver to watch this weekend.
It literally hasn't changed since last week. I don't even think the pricing has stopped or changed. So my driver's Denny Hamlin. I gave him out last week as my driver to watch, and mainly because I thought he was clicking all year long. I thought the speed was there, and now we go to his best track. It's that simple. He's raced here 21 times in his career. His average finish is 7.5. That's literally 2 positions better than the next closest driver. I mean, it's not even close. He is the man here. He has 4 wins. I think it's 12 top 5s and 16 top 10s in 21 races. I mean, we're literally saying 75% of the time he's top 10. That's an ungodly number that's not matched really by many people at many tracks. So I know for the most part, 60% of the time he's top 5, which usually means fast laps led. If you look at his history, he's leading laps in like half the races he's run here. And even in the bad races, quote unquote, the last 2 races that he's finished outside the top 20, I believe, he was top 10 in all the stages in those races. He was 3rd at the end of stage 2, I believe, in his last performance of 20th or worse. It's just circumstances happened to give him that bad finish, right? So for me, Denny Hamlin's the man here. If he has a clean race, he should be running top 5. And given the speed all year, the performance of this car right now, he should be a top contender for the win.
Okay. Pretty electric breakdown for you there. Jason, we're going to go over to you now. Who is your top tier driver to watch? And are we going back to Denny Hamlin here, or are you going a different wavelength?
Well, there's obviously a lot of great plays on the slate this week, and obviously it's hard to go against a guy like Denny Hamlin, especially you got guys like Kyle Larson as well, guys like Martin Truex. There's gonna be some heavy favorite guys at the top of the salary board who you're talking about, but a guy who I want to watch, a guy who I think comes in way too cheap this week, a guy who I think's going to silence the haters this week is my boy Ross Chastain. Right? I mean, I mentioned 9,400 is way too cheap. I mean, for Ross Chastain here, when you're looking at like the last 4 tracks that have ran this tire code that we're going to see this week, which was Kansas, Vegas, Auto Club, Homestead, Ross is number 1 in terms of driver rating, average precision, average finish in all those races, right? He's got 3rd in laps led percentage, 5th in fast laps percentage. He's had the speed. He hasn't quite, had the same type of speed to compete with Denny Hamlin and these guys. But Darlington has been a track that Ross has shown a lot of speed at. It's kind of where he made his mark at with Ganassi. He came out and ran really well at Darlington. He was like, oh my God, look, this Ross Chastain guy can drive, right? That's his 3rd place back in 2021. And when you look at the last 2 years here at these tracks, since he's gotten in, the better equipment, his fast lap percentage is 7.7, which is 3rd best, only behind Martin Truex and Kyle Larson. So like Chastain for 9,400 here, definitely going to keep an eye on see what kind of speed he shows up with.
All right, we're going to stick right with you to our mid-tier driver to watch this time. Is it going to be somebody else who got in a brawl last weekend, or are we talking about a different mid-tier driver this week?
No, we're not going to. I'm going to go way down in the mid-tier. Like, we're talking pretty cheap in the mid-tier range. A guy who hasn't had a very good year so far is Erik Jones. Like, there's obviously no secret that this Jones is struggling. Legacy is struggling, and we know they're moving to Toyota. But I feel like this is a perfect get right spot for Jones. The price is really cheap here for $7,100. I think when we saw him last year, he was definitely a hell of a lot more expensive than that when we came here. We saw Gragson kind of showed some speed last week at Kansas. He was running competitively at the beginning of that race. Jones finished 21st. He also finished 19th in both Vegas and Auto Club this year. And he was actually, his average running position was even 3 to 4 spots higher than that. So he had a little bit better speed than that. So these are the types of tracks where he's showed better at, high tire wear or something. And obviously, Darlington is a great track for Jones. Obviously, 2 wins here, 1 last year at the Southern 500, 5 top 8 finishes in the last, 5 top 8 finishes in the last 8 races here. This is definitely a track that this team has circled as a get right spot on the calendar. They're going to bring their best foot forward. I'm definitely going to keep an eye and see what kind of speed he shows up with off the truck.
Dude, is she really hot? Like, I just got to know where. Is she hot at least? Tell me again on camera. I got to know why you're so distracted right now.
No, dude, there's like a tornado outside, man. It's so windy out of nowhere.
There's no tornadoes in the Midwest. That is fictitious. I don't know what they teach you in Canadian schools, but that's not true. There's no tornadoes in the Midwest.
It was mostly a joke, but out of nowhere, we just got the most violent winds outside, and I had to go just check on Valentina, my car.
I could say something very inappropriate, but I'll hold on.
Say it to my face.
No, I'm not going to talk about the wind blowing on you.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe not. And for the record, my girlfriend is right there, but she ain't getting on camera. All right, let's talk about your mid-tier driver to watch this weekend. You going to anybody else getting in fights? Like, are we talked about enough of them or not?
No. Okay. The people who get in fights are usually the ones that are too cheap because they suck, like Noah. The thing with Erik Jones is, my God, I've seen him on Twitter a lot this week, and I don't know if it's just because of sports books not knowing what the hell to do with them. So all the sports book people, all the bettors are like, just tweet. But I don't really get the Erik Jones love based off of the speed this year. But this is a great example of what we talked about in the beginning, where a driver can overcome a lack of speed in the car and run good. Erik Jones is one of the better drivers in the series, and he's kind of pigeonholed right now by his equipment. But Erik Jones 7,100 is a great value. I went different. And I kind of went along the lines of what Jason said with Ross Chastain, but at a much cheaper price, and that's Daniel Suarez at 7,900. Trackhouse has been really good here, like really strong with this car. And honestly, they just don't have the finishes because of both their drivers getting in wrecks. But Ross Chastain had an amazing car here last spring before he wadded it up. And then last fall, Daniel Suarez started at the back, dead last, drove through the entire field, had one of the best cars, if not the best car, mid-race, and then put it in the wall a little bit, got some damage, and finished 18th. But he was 10th and 13th the 2 races before that. I think he's going to have the speed to finish top 10 or even top 5. He has that type of upside. And his grouping is what's interesting. Keselowski's right above him in price. Ty Gibbs right below him. There's a few drivers in that range which will spread out ownership across all 4 of them. Josh Berry's right there as well. I think Josh Berry's 8K. So you got 4 drivers that I think will all kind of see some ownership, and depending on where guys start, I think Suarez could be the lowest owned of all of them, not the cheapest, but the lowest owned. And that type of leverage is great as well. But we've seen the speed, which is the biggest aspect. I love when we can see drivers who actually deliver speed, and then we just have to rely on them to get the finishes, right? We're playing a riskier play with Suarez, but the upside's there, and that's why I really am looking forward to him. If he wrecks, I wouldn't be surprised, but this is a play I'm very interested in this week.
I am so glad you talked about Daniel Suarez, because I had him to talk about him, but I talked about him last week. It's like, I can't go Daniel Suarez 2 weeks in a row and talk about him, but then you came out and done Hamlin 2 weeks in a row. It's like, damn, I should have. But I missed the golden opportunity last week on Cinco de Mayo to call that out when I picked Daniel Suarez. Like, how stupid am I that this release on Cinco de Mayo, I didn't even mention it, picking Daniel Suarez. So
yeah, hey, good plays are good plays. Never you can give Daniel Suarez out every week if he's a good play.
All right. Well, we're going to stick with you, Ryan. I've been informed that it's actually raining, and that makes more sense than tornado. But we're going to keep going. Is your value tier driver to watch going to be a dirt track driver like Andrew suggests, or are you going to a different type of style here?
No, there's not really too many dirt track guys down there in this value tier that I'm super interested in. Andrew's not wrong. He's definitely got something going there. It becomes a question. We say this a lot about dirt track guys hey, they're really good at this track, but maybe it's just the fact that they're good drivers. Like, Larson, Reddick, obviously are going to get a lot of love this week. And it might just be that they're good drivers and not have any correlation to dirt trackness. But they definitely show up here. They definitely show up at Homestead, high tire wear, and running the top at both tracks. So maybe there's something to that. My value pick of the week is actually the quintessential non-dirt track racer, and that's Corey LaJoie. So we've already talked about who I think is going to be the top tier guy to watch. That's Denny Hamlin. Larson, the other guys at the top of pricing are pretty much the guys we're going to focus on in terms of dominators. I think we're going to have to pay up for the guys we want again, just like last week. And as a result, I need to save salary somewhere. And Corey LaJoie is a guy that fits the mold for me. He's run top 20 almost every week this year. I mean, he's been a top 20 machine. 5,400 is essentially saying he's the 30th worst play on the slate. He hasn't been that all year. He's literally been a top 20 guy. You look at his recent results here, 22nd. This is since he joined Spire. 22nd, 15th, 35th. He was caught up in that big wreck last year, I believe, and then 24th last fall. So I'm looking at about anywhere from a 15th to a 25th place car, right? This year he's been faster than in years past. So I think this is a guy that can finish top 20 again. My dream would be that he qualifies 27th, so I get some place differential there. But at 5,400, the salary savings is the crucial aspect of that. And I just trust LaJoie at this point. Like, he's just been super solid this year.
We take someone who's super solid. Are we going to go with someone super solid and consistent like that, Jason, or are we mixing it up?
I think so. I love the Corey LaJoie play, like a phenomenal year. So yeah, definitely like that play there for 5,400. I'm going a little different route here. Guy I want to look out for here is going to be Aric Almirola. He's coming off a solid run last week at Kansas on this tire code, a 13th place finish after starting 18th. So a nice solid day for him. I know they had some up and downs, but they managed to rebound. This has historically been a pretty solid track for Aric Almirola. When you look at recent runs here, his average finish of 15th on the last 8 Darlington races is miles ahead of everyone from 7,600 on down, except with the exception of Erik Jones and Austin Dillon, who I'm so surprised you didn't talk about your boy Austin Dillon tonight. I thought for sure you were going there. Almost half the laps.
Pick.
Okay. Almost half the laps that he has ran in those 8 races have been top 15 lap times. So I believe he's around 5,800. So a little bit more expensive than Corey LaJoie, but I don't know if he's that cheap. I actually don't have it in front of me, but he might be 63. So yeah, he's a little bit more expensive, but I think he's got that top 15, top 10 upsides. He does have a pair of top 10s here back in 2020, and he finished 11th in both races here last year. So top 10 upside there at this price. He's going to go super low owned as well, especially if he qualifies in the top 20, which I think makes him really a nice GPP option.
Yeah, and I think a good aspect of this, or something that should be notated on the slate, is that Ryan Newman is 5,800 for some freaking reason. They did the same thing when Zane Smith jumped in that car, and that also made no damn sense. So we have a little bit of a that doesn't make a lot of sense up there in salary. This is a track to where maybe Newman could have a little bit more of an impact, but it's doubtful. But when you look below Almarola, it's not a lot of drivers that you have a lot of faith in. Austin Cindric just hasn't looked good this year. Noah Gragson obviously hasn't ran good. Mm-hmm. Todd Gilliland and this team has not run good here yet. So we haven't seen that deliver. And then we got Harrison Burton. So there's not a lot of options. The only other guy in that range that I really like is Michael McDowell, who finished top 10 both races here last year. But there were circumstances behind that, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a top 10 guy this year. So I like the concept of playing one of my guys like Corey LaJoie super cheap, and then the next guy, your next value play is going to be in that range with Almarola, maybe an Allmendinger or McDowell or something like that. So I really like Almarola. I think he's the best play in this range too. He's the only one that stands out as like a consistent top 10 threat at this track. So yeah, he's a great option.
All right, well, let's get to our race winners, and we're going to stick with Jason here. We're going to go to Jason first. And, we've talked about the Ross Chastains of the world. We've talked about people like that. Is that who you're going to this week, or who is your projected race winner?
I'm going to go different so that way I can hedge my bets and cast out a lot of options here, and hopefully I hit on one of them. but it's obviously, Larson's a favorite here for obvious reasons. I mean, he's been lightning fast all year. This is one of his better tracks. But I'm going to go a little different here. I'm going to go with Martin Truex. he's top 5 in basically every category that you look at on the comparable tracks that recently that I spoke about that runs this tire code. I mean, all across the board, average turning position, average finish, fast laps, all that stuff. Top 5. He's had a ton of speed. We've seen at Dover, obviously, he had a ton of speed. Had one of the fastest cars at Kansas last week. I thought for the longest time it was going to be either him or Denny Hamlin that was going to win that race until Larson kind of stuck his nose in and got back up there. But the teams had speed, and this is, a hell of a track for Truex as well. We know he excels at conserving those tires, conserving his equipment. When you look at the last 8 races at Darlington, he has the best driver rating. He's number 1 in fast laps percentage, number 1 in lap sleds percentage. If you look at last time we were here, he basically had one of the fastest cars, 46 fast laps, were second only to Ross Chastain in that race. So I like Martin Truex here and thinks he has a shot to upset his teammate, upset Larson, upset these guys.
All right. I don't mind the shot there this weekend. I hope it bodes out well for you. Ryan, are you agreeing with this love here? You going a different way? And remember, you're on a streak here. You're 1 for 1 in the past one. That's a streak,
Listen,
right?
I'm 2 for 2 the last Kansas races.
Hey,
that's back-to-back Kansas races. I picked the winner. No, sorry. I saw something on Twitter where Alex Smith wants me on the MMA pod. And I love it.
I already answered to that. I cheekily plugged, said, if you want to see Ryan, he's now live on the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel.
There we go. No, so I really wanted to go Hamlin back to back, but I didn't want to be cheesy, and I wanted to cover another driver that I knew we weren't covering based off of what me and Jason put down, and that was Kyle Larson. So Kyle Larson's the favorite to win, and he is my pick to win. It's a 50-50 between Hamlin, just like it was heading into last week. So let's just break down Larson pretty much as straightforward as it gets here. Real quick, love Martin Truex. Love the pick. Like I said in the chat, I love Martin Truex. This is a quintessential Truex track. So I love that pick. Back to Larson. When you look at his track history here, date back to Chip Ganassi Racing when that equipment wasn't really at the level of the guys he's running against. He had dominated performances of 124 laps led, 284 laps led, and 156 laps led. Just unbelievable performances. The 156 was with Hendrick in his first year with them. You look at his stage results, top 5 in almost every stage from 2021 back to 2017, which is unbelievable. Last year, he led 30 laps, spun himself out, and then the engine blew early in the spring race here last year. I think he was the best car, and I think he was going to win that. He's just so good here. And then when you look at their speed right now as a whole from Hendrick Motorsports, they're the best car. And as good as Denny Hamlin is and as good as Hamlin was at the end of that race, Kyle Larson for pure speed has been the best car all year. And I think he can get it done this time. He hasn't won here yet. I think this is the week he does it. And I don't know what else to say. It's just the best car, the best driver, best situation right now. But caveat, if I'm saying Larson's the best driver, Denny Hamlin's 1B right now. It's very, very close. And I expect those two to go to war again. I think it's going to be those two battling out the entire race. And that gets me excited. We can see a carryover from what we saw last week right back at it again this week. A similar type race where these guys are going to have basically they're going to come and go, right? Long run's going to see them drive differently. Maybe Larson takes off early again and Hamlin's better in the long run or whatever. But I'm just super excited about it. And I think those are two guys.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. We're going to wrap up the final preview of our Thursday night show here. Before we do so, if you guys have any more questions, please leave it in the comment section down below. But also, Andrew asking here, needs a double check, but Newman has good stats here. Not sure of the equipment. What are your thoughts on that? I'll leave it open to either of you.
Yeah, he does have good stats here. I think I saw it was your average finish the last 6 races here is around 15th. The equipment is concerning, obviously, is concerning the pit crew. Can they pit him? Can they maintain track position? I'm excited to see him race more than anything. I don't think I'll be playing him in DFS this week. I don't think I'll be making any bets on him, but I would definitely excited to watch Ryan Newman back behind the wheel. And I know he's going to be a tough guy to lap, and I cannot wait to see the leaders come up and start lapping his ass.
Yeah, I mean so I made the joke that that car's been wrecked twice this year. Rick Ware cars have been wrecked twice this year, once by Hamlin, once by Chastain, just running their race. And I made the joke that they got Newman to drive this car literally because no one will mess with them. Like it's the you don't mess with Ryan Newman situation. So that's because Newman's just a badass and he's tough and you don't want to mess with him on the track or off it. But the concept that he's going to get in a Rick Ware car and run anything better in top 25 is just kind of crazy to me. If we get a lot of carnage like we saw last spring where there was like 15 DNFs or whatever the exact total was, yeah, maybe he can run 20th and score you really well. Outside of that, I don't know what his regular upside is. He's going to run 30th all race probably. I think it's a situation where on long green flag runs, maybe he can overstep that and run like 25th, 26th. Maybe you'll see like Chase Briscoe was just dog crap last week, right? Like he was the entire race, he never had speed. Maybe a driver like that will be bad. Maybe Harrison Burton just won't be up to speed, and Ryan Newman can make up for that. But it's important to remember he hasn't been in this car yet. He's never been in this new car, the next gen car. He hasn't been on in a NASCAR Cup race in essentially 2 years. I don't expect him to be up to speed with a 20-minute practice session. So I think it'll be hard for him to get acclimated. I think he'll go numerous lap downs. I expect him to run 30th. Would I be happy with him running 22nd? Absolutely. But I just don't anticipate it.
I think we've seen guys in that Rick Ware cars kind of like compete for the first little bit of the race, like hang around, 20th, 18th, 22nd, but eventually, yeah, he's probably going to fade once they start making pit stops. If they have to make adjustments, anything that needs to happen, he's going to drop and fade.
Yeah, and like J.K. Yeley had a good race last week. Like I think he finished, I'm pulling up now, I think he finished 25th or 26th at Kansas last week. Now, granted, we saw numerous DNFs. We saw a lot of guys spin out on their own. That did two things. One, it had guys that he can beat because they were crashed out of the race, but it also kept him on the lead lap the whole race. Yeah, he was 23rd last week at Kansas. So that type of performance can happen. Like it's possible, but you're probably going to need the attrition. You're going to need 8 drivers to kind of crash out or that type of situation.
And he's not cheap enough for a 23rd to pay off, right?
No, well, I don't know. If he qualified 31st, finished 23rd, 5,800, it's possible. But if he was 52 or 5,300 like he should be, then you'd be more apt to do it for sure.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. We talked about the DFS preview for Darlington. Before we head out, though, I'm going to give the mic over to these two gents right here. Please tell us where they can find you, what others you have going on this week. Jason, we'll start with you. Where can they find all your work?
You guys can find all my stuff, same place, runpuresports.com every Sunday morning. Put my article out there, breakdown, cheat sheet, core plays, all that good stuff will be out there in the article for free every Sunday morning. So that's where you can find me. And follow me on Twitter at DFS NASCAR. I dropped some knowledge on there as well.
Some knowledge indeed. I saw you did a couple of short videos last week. Good for you. I like those right there. I'll make sure to support them as always. Ryan, over to you. Discord, hats. What do you got going on?
Yeah. So same thing as always. We have a free Discord if you want to jump in there. Had someone yell at me today because they got booted. But free Discord, as long as you're good, cordial, you do good things, and you don't make issues with other people or other sites, you're good to be in there. All of our content, DailyFanRacing.com, will have full coverage of the truck race. We got trucks Friday night, Xfinity early Saturday afternoon, 1:30 start, and then we got the Cup race. Really excited for this weekend. Trucks at Darlington, super fun. We got short turnaround on that, which is usually hell for me, but usually also a benefit for ourselves. We do pretty good there. We had a $3,800 winner last week on the truck race, which was awesome as well. And everything else we'll pretty much put it out there on Twitter when it's ready to go. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I got you back on the podcast this weekend, right? Got you back there, so that's good. And that's pretty much it, man. Like we're gonna go try to do it again, try to win a bunch of money for a bunch of people, and see if we can keep up the good vibes.
Well, on my end, I will try my best to be one of those guys who wins more money with you guys this weekend. As always, I appreciate learning from you guys and picking up some more NASCAR knowledge. I also look forward to doing the videos with you, Ryan, this weekend on the premium content for Daily Fan Racing. But that's going to do it for us here. Make sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Show some love to these two beautiful gentlemen around me. And you can check me out as well at GordoGambles on Twitter, at Plays of Fate Sports on YouTube if you want some MMA content, which is not what we're talking about, but I'm going to plug that in there anyways. But I wish everyone the best of luck on all their DFS endeavors this weekend. Enjoy the race, and let's make some money, guys. Peace.